Welcome to the Tradie Wife Life podcast, brought to you by Tradies in Business, where we talk to tradie wives about their goals, their challenges, their hopes and dreams, and how their trade business can help with that. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Tradie Wife Life. I am so excited to be joined today by my partner in crime, Mr. Warwick Bidwell, for another She Says, He Says episode. Welcome, Warwick.
G'day, Nick. Do I call you Nick or Coxie over here at Tradie Wife Life?
You can call me anything you like other than Nikki.
Nicky. Call me anything but late for dinner, is the old was generation. Was that Gen X?
That's me too.
Probably the generation prior, I think.
Let's talk about nicknames for a minute, because I had, all my family, and when I say family, it was my extended family, not quite so much. My dad and my mum called me Nikki, which I hated. And now, from when I was about 12 or 13, my dad's always called me Knickers, and my nephews call me Auntie Knickers. And there's discussion in the family about how I'll be Granny Knickers or Nanny Knickers.
Granny Knickers. They're the big white ones that you hang on the washing line.
Almost like Y fronts for men. But what was your nickname when you grew up? Did you have one?
Y fronts are so uncomfortable. I tried a pair once when I was a young bloke.
Nobody listening to this wants to know about your Y fronts.
My nickname as a kid, other than one of my uncles branding me Whinging Warwick when I was like
horrible.
2 or something. What an awful thing to do to a kid.
Oh, it's dreadful.
But anyway, I'm sure Maggie Dent would have a lot to say about that.
You would have fair.
Was through school, I was Biddy. You know,
Biddy.
Last name's Bidwell. Of course, I was Biddy. And that was kind of okay until when I got to high school in my teenage years. And the cool girls used to refer to me as Biddy because I was itty bitty, because I was a little guy at school.
Oh.
And, you know, they thought I was cute and everything. It's like, I don't want to be cute. I want to be hot.
Yeah.
I want you to ask me out on a date, not treat me like some cute little puppy. So that was a bit emasculating for me at the ripe old age of 15 and 16. So I was Biddy. And then, I don't know, I had a weird one. My ex-wife and her best friend had some weird name for me that stuck amongst my peers, and I'm not even going to repeat it because I don't like it. I'm still scarred.
She's got plenty of other names for you by now. As well.
They're not very cute,
No,
or weird, but definitely uncomplimentary. And nowadays I'm Was, mainly because my friends who started calling me that know that I don't like Wazza because it was a bit bogan, ochre, Aussie.
It is.
But a few people have started calling me Wazza, and now that I'm in my 50s, I really don't care, Nick.
Yeah, it's funny how it becomes less important over time, isn't it? Yeah. You know what matters to me is that somebody cares to call me something other than my formal name, unless it's nasty, of course, because it means that they have some sort of connection to me, which I really like.
It's a bit of familiarity, isn't it?
Yes.
As long as it's not uncomplimentary, like
yes,
deliberately calling you something you hate, like Knickers, which always makes me think of Snickers.
I like Knickers. And funnily enough, there's another member of my family who grew up with the nickname Snickers. Knickers and Snickers.
Is that because they satisfy?
Well, I don't know. I've never asked the question. I don't think I will of that particular family member. It's probably best I don't know.
I'm not supposed to be lowering the tone of this podcast, but somehow I manage to do it everywhere I go.
Well, let's not forget the audience. We're talking to tradie wives, and they are tradie wives because they're with tradies, and this is how they talk all the time. So I don't think we're lowering the standard at all. We were going to talk about, this is a super quick episode today, listeners, as we wind our way back into the tradie wife life journey. We were going to talk about being fine today.
Oh, that's very triggering for me as a man, Nicole. I'm feeling very triggered.
I'm fine. Don't worry about it. I'm just fine. What's wrong? Nothing.
Oh, and I don't know, again, old generation. My parents are a bit older. So I've sort of hung around older men, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, like that uncle that dubbed me Whinging Warwick. Like that's the sort of dumb stuff that men did who were born in the 40s. Boomer. Anyway, so the fine thing, like there's the old joke rolling around, probably the older generation males, that it stands for effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. It's an acronym.
That's a dreadful acronym.
I know. And yet, if you think about it, when anyone, doesn't have to be a man or a woman, but generally speaking, I think the ladies say, I'm fine. It's almost like, yeah, well, clearly you're not. So why
Mm.
would you say you're fine?
Can I tell you why I say I'm fine when I'm not sometimes?
Please. Maybe this will help me with my relationship.
Perhaps it could. Simply generally because I either haven't processed what I'm feeling enough to be able to speak it out, or I don't feel there's enough space or capacity to get through that kind of conversation.
I reckon it's because us blokes ask dumb questions.
Oh,
We open our fat mouths and say stupid shit at the wrong time.
I love that you
Speaking from
are adding
experience,
men over here on Trading Wife Life. This is great. We need more of these episodes, don't we, listeners?
I did this just recently with my wife, and she never says she's fine.
Yeah.
She says other things. She's German, so she says other things.
We all have them. If I don't sound fine, I find I do this a lot with my son who likes to push all of my buttons and then he'll come worming his way back around. I'm pretty sure you've seen this demonstrated on a Zoom call. He'll worm his way back around. What's going on, Mum? Nothing. Are you okay? I'm fine. It's him most often because I need time to process. How am I going to diplomatically tackle this so I don't turn into a raving lunatic when I'm trying to explain what buttons he's just pressed or how he's made me feel?
I think it is one of these cycles or dynamics that husbands and wives, partners, whatever you want to call it these days, get ourselves into where I press your button, you say something that presses mine,
Yeah.
I press another one of yours in return.
Press.
It's like we're 12 in the playground.
It's like Bart with
You're stinky. Well, you're ugly. Well, you're fat. Well, you're a stick figure. Like it's stupid. And as supposed adults, we do this same dumb stuff because I honestly, Nick, when I do it, it's because I'm being careless. I'm being mindless about what comes out of my gob. And I hear it come out nowadays. I have enough self-awareness that I hear it come out, but I'm not gonna admit to it immediately because that still feels like I'm losing. I gotta take, sometimes it's 5 minutes these days, sometimes it's half an hour before I come back around. And look, I'm committed to, and I think we shared some of this stuff with your listeners, Nick. I've been divorced, and been around the block a couple of times, unfortunately. But the fortunate aspect of that is that I'm committed to actually stepping back into my wife and being, I want to be the one who comes back, finds her wherever she is in the house, and just walks up to her and wrap my arms around her and say, I'm sorry, honey. I'm sorry. I just said that stupid shit before. I wasn't thinking straight. I let my mouth go before I thought it through. And that in itself it doesn't fix it, but it allows us then to have a conversation about it. It's like, so you said you're fine. Well, how are you really feeling? Because that's what you want, isn't it, as a woman?
Sometimes I actually just want the space. Just give me the time to process it. I'll come to you at the time that's right for me. I see often there is a lack of harmony around the right space for something to be discussed or worked through. In all of my relationships that I've had over time, it's rare that the right space to work through something is the same for each of the parties. And this isn't only about romantic relationships, it's about parental relationships or business partnerships or, team members and yourself. Often, one of the healthiest things I've learned is to give some space. Now, that wasn't always the same for me. My natural compulsion is to fix things or sort it as quickly as possible. I don't like disharmony. I'm okay to sit in that space if I need to. And if there's a way to work through this, I like to, or have liked to, push to get to that result. And yet I'm often pushing against someone who isn't ready and has not yet processed and doesn't have the language or the ability, which means one or two things happen. They shut down and pretend like everything's fine, or they then explode and it turns into an argument. So it was a coach, a personal coach many years ago now, that taught me that space is actually the healthiest thing that I can encourage in someone else, to take some time.
This, as you're talking, Coxie, I'm listening to that, and it runs alongside another forum that we teach this in, which is around sales. I use the word sales in terms of being a business who has a solution to offer and you want the customer to choose you and not somebody else. That's sales. And the good old pregnant pause, asking a question and shutting your mouth. And as I was listening to you, I thought about, you and your significant other. And it's like, what's up? It's like, nothing. I'm fine. And allowing that to be the last word and not having to say something else or ask another question or get an answer, because in that business owner potential client scenario, if I said, so how are you feeling about everything we've gone through today? And they go, yeah, it's okay. And I start talking again and poking them with more questions, I actually trample all over whatever they might have shared with me after. No, it's okay. Because they're doing exactly what you're talking about, Nick. They're processing what we've just discussed. They're going through everything and how they feel about it and weighing things up and rationalizing the logic and then checking in with their emotions. And quite often, well, you and I are both coaches and we've been in sales roles and we still are as business people. Anyone in business is in a sales role. We know that if we both shut up and just leave the silence there, 9.5 times out of 10, the other person will go, no, it's okay. Yeah, no, I can see how this could work. Let's do it. Or just I'm feeling a bit confused about this. And it's never what I thought they were going to say. But if I'd started talking again, we just miss all of it. So you miss out on so much awesomeness when you open your fat mouth after I'm fine. And instead of just saying, oh, okay, well, you're here to listen if you've got anything else you want to share. And that's it. Just leave it at that.
I think so. Something cemented for me now. It's gone straight out of my head as it's my turn to talk.
As I was talking.
There's another reason. So that's what it is. We project our own stories onto other people.
Yeah.
And so one of the other things that I see happen, I actually see this in our community quite frequently when you and I have the opportunity, fortune, misfortune, I'm not quite sure, to sit in on some pretty heavy conversations between husbands and wives.
Oh, man, I squirm in my seat, Nick.
Me too. It is part of what we do here because we approach business coaching as a more holistic opportunity for life development, your own personal development as well. And that allows us the opportunity to sometimes sit in some really hefty conversations. And I see a lot of projection. I see a lot of my story becoming my truth, which for those who haven't heard the concept before, essentially we create truths for ourselves because of our journeys, our past, our traumas, things that have happened to us before. I find trauma to be a very big word that isn't necessarily correct in this concept. Stuff that's happened to us before means that when something happens to us now, we already have a thought which becomes a truth about what might happen next or what somebody really means by what they've said or what that conversation or that argument or that situation really meant for everybody, when in actual fact, that's just your thoughts projecting to be a truth. And the really hard part about that in a dynamic where we're talking, actually in any of the dynamics we've referenced today, any kind of relationship is, we're often determining what someone else is thinking or feeling without asking the question. And that creates a whole bunch of turmoil within yourself that's probably unnecessary rather than just trusting what they've just told you. So when there are situations in my personal life where I might ask someone in my family, are they okay? And they'll tell me they're okay. And I have to trust and believe that they're okay and not try to read into what I think their body language might be telling me or what I think their current behavior might be telling me, because they've just told me they're okay and I'm here and I'm available if they need to tell me something. And if not, maybe they just need time to process something they've been through, or maybe they're just tired, or maybe they're feeling frustrated, or they've stubbed their toe and they're trying to swallow their pain. Who knows? I have to trust what they're telling me. And the upside to that is if you are stuck in this negative, it's almost toxic dynamic within your relationship where you are making all of these guesses and that's allowing somebody's behavior to impact the way you think and you feel, you quickly flesh that out and there's space for a new dynamic to come into the relationship when you trust what they're telling you. If you don't go picking and looking for what's really bothering someone or what's really upsetting them, they've got to make two choices. They've got to adult up and come to you and bring whatever the issue is, or they have to process it and deal with it in their own way, in their own time. But it stops that negative, almost toxic dynamic of, yeah, but what's wrong? Yeah, but I can see, you're showing me in your body something's not right. Yeah, and you're almost picking away and setting
You're
up
creating the outcome that you claim you don't want.
100%. And you're also setting up that parent-child relationship instead of just letting the space be, trusting that the other adult in the room is going to process and come to you if they need to, or let it go, one or the other. It's not healthy. So changing the way you deal with that can really change the outcome for everyone.
It's like wives that say, I don't want to nag him about this stuff, but if I don't, he won't do it. It's like, no, he doesn't do it because you nag him.
Uh,
And so you have to actually let go of the idea that changing your behavior is likely to bring about a different outcome. I look, this is just personal opinion, listeners, obviously. I think people in these relationships, whether it's employer, employee, business owner, customer, husband, wife, parent, child, you name it, I just think people are impatient. They're not
yeah.
willing to wait for things to unfold and just allow that natural flow of relationship to happen in these sorts of settings.
Yep.
We're pushing for an answer because we want to know, are you okay or not?
Yeah.
Well, but what do you mean you're fine? What does that mean? And then we end up just creating what we have already decided was going on for the other person. Because you say you're fine, it's like, well, I know you're not bloody fine. And so in my tone, even when I ask you and I claim to be genuinely wanting to understand, so help me understand, what do you mean by fine? Like, I'm saying it in a tone that's just going to piss you off.
Yep.
And I'm going to make you not fine even if you were fine.
That's right.
Because we mindlessly create these outcomes because it continues to support the narrative that we have that my partner's not fine. And she's always huffy and puffy after work when she comes home, and she's pissed off about the kids. And I've already got all that story, as you say, in my head.
Yeah.
And I've made all those assumptions about my partner. And so I actually go and create that outcome by deliberately pressing her buttons and go, see, I knew you weren't fine, but I'm the idiot that actually made that so.
Yep.
But we don't realize we're doing that. That's one of my theories. And then we're not patient enough to say, like you said, Nick, trust what they're telling you.
Mm.
I'm fine. Oh, okay, cool. Well, I'm going to go get dinner ready. Is that cool? Sure. Okay. And just allow that to be. It's okay.
It
You
is
don't have to be
okay.
holding hands and skipping through the daisies 24 hours a day. That's not reality.
No, relationships are very up and down, just like employing someone or just like working with someone or just like having a relationship with your children. We have good days and we have bad. So we have good periods and bad periods. They don't generally turn into days unless we allow that to happen.
And Nick, I'm not disagreeing with you here. The good and bad thing.
Mm.
I noticed that now, having a 11-month-old boy and, getting to have another go at being a parent. I actively avoid using good or bad as a way to describe whether he had a good or a bad sleep.
Yep.
Or a good or a bad meal or anything, because it's that judgment that we put on things. It's good or
Yes.
bad. So I'm really sorry, and I'm feeling very nervous right now because
You
I'm
should be.
disagreeing with you.
Can you see my Dutch eyes glaring through the screen? Because
You
I'm going to
okay?
be fine after this.
Are you fine? I'm good. It's just I like Megs Dixon's take on this. There's harmony, disharmony, and repair.
Mm-hmm.
None of those three are any more or less valid than the other. They all actually have a place in a healthy relationship, and it's all about how smoothly and consistently you move around that cycle of harmony, disharmony. And my wife watched her thing, and we now actually celebrate when we have a disharmony. It's like, oh, sick. We're disharmony. How quickly can we repair? So we're like, oh, what's the steps to repair? Great. Now we're back in harmony. Wow, cool. That's just all part of a relationship.
Of course it is.
It's not always quite that nice.
I don't imagine it would be.
Not with a wife with German heritage who's 7 inches taller than me. Scary.
Okay, listeners, if you are keen to hear more of these episodes and you have a question or a topic you would like us to unpack, because Warwick and I don't always agree on these things. Generally on the podcast, you will have heard us be very nice to one another, but we're committed to being honest. So if you have a question or something you'd like us to unpack, you can find space to do so in the Tradie Wife Life Facebook group. We all hang out there and have a bunch of fun, talk a lot of stuff about fellas and our roles in our businesses. So if you've got a question, please reach out there, or you can find us also over on Instagram, Tradie Wife Life. I think it's Tradie Wife Life podcast. Anyway, it'll be in the show notes. Thanks so much for being here, Waz.
Thanks for the fun, Nick. How you feeling?
I'm all right.
I'm fine.
Thanks for listening.